right. Bloody right. Bloody right. Yes. Bloody right. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Fix the XJ6. In this series I am basically just doing some general maintenance overhaul work on my Yamaha XJ6 I version 2010. It's with thanks to these companies you can see on your screen now who have been helping with this build. This has been made possible, and the patrons that support it. If you'd also like to help but you can't do it through Patreon or something like that, please remember to hit the like button. Anyway, carrying on from the last episode where we had no problems at all getting the suspension sorted out. But we are now back on track, ready to get this bike going again. In today's video I have a goal, which is to get the suspension back on, and the front wheel back on, get the rear wheel on, get the chain on, changing the sprockets as well in between there. Basically get it back to being able to be rolled around, because then it's more convenient than being on this stand. If I want to work on the opposite side of the bike, for instance, I can move it backwards and forwards. But anyway, without further ado, let's just get on. Okay, so let's get the forks back on. What I have done is in the inside of the yokes here where there was a little bit of rust. It wasn't really real rust, it was more like rust dust that was just sat between the stanchion and in here. I just cleaned that up using a little Dremel with a little wire brush on it, bit of WD-40, and then wiped it out, and then wiped it with a cloth with some grease on it. Not to like fill it with grease or anything, but just to give a little bit of greasing on the surface. And now we can get the legs in. You do need to make sure you get the right leg, because, well, or the left leg, depending which one you want. But note, they are different in one way, which is that on one side it's open with a pinch bolt, and on the opposite side it's threaded for the axle to screw into. I remember that this was pinch bolt to the left, screw into the other side, so we can put this one in straight away. I happen to know, having had these apart a few times, these yokes are quite tight, so it's much easier just to slightly, and I mean only very slightly, open them with a screwdriver, just to get it in, like so. See, it won't move now, but with a very slight tweak, come up, and up. And then we need to find out where they were sat before. Appears to be there. So I'll bring up that to that edge. There we go. So I've just got the top of the suspension in line here. On some bikes that's going to be slightly higher. You can even adjust this height for reasons, but you don't really want to do that because it's going to affect handling. I want it back where it was. I know that the marks are inside here, and I'm just going to make it flush with that, and I can match both sides. Now you need to do these up in a specific order, because if you remember we haven't fully tightened up this top cap. So we need to tighten this bottom one, then tighten the top cap, then tighten this one. Because if we tighten this one, then try and tighten that, you'll get the wrong torque figure. Okay, in the true style of this build, straight away, I've found a problem, which is that my torque wrench doesn't go up to 30 Newton meters, it only goes to 25, which means I'm going to need to pick up a torque wrench which can go higher than that. I kind of need one that goes from about 25 up to about 110, and then I'll be covered. But anyway, what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to do them up to 25. I'm going to get a torque wrench and then I'll re-torque them. This will be fine for getting it together. I'm telling you, every time I go to start doing stuff on this, another problem comes up and it normally requires another tool. It's fine, I'm playing the game of buying a tool as I need it, and then, you know, you don't spend out too much at once, and eventually you have everything you need. Going to double check our height to make sure we got it the same. So we're going to go from that one. Okay, so we've got the bottom ones torqued up. Not tight enough yet, but very close. Now we need to do these top caps. There we go, spot on. I was actually very close to what they should have been at. Okay, now we need to do up the top ones, and again they're 30, but we're going to only better do 25. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos, and I've already mentioned this one, but it's really important to remember this. If you're going to try and undo these top caps, you have to undo this yoke first, because it clamping on the outside creates more of a torque on this. But equally, if this was done up before you try to tighten these up, they wouldn't actually be at the correct torque, and they might leak. So you have to make sure this is loose when you do this up, or undo it. Okay, so I put a little bit of grease inside the seals, I put a little bit of grease on the spacers, I've greased up the entire length of the axle but put a little extra at the end. We're going to need to clean up afterwards, make sure there's no excess, but I want to make sure that it's all nicely sealed in. So, I need a clean rag to make sure I don't get oil all over it myself. You might notice these wheels are filthy still. I'm going to clean them while I'm on the bike because it's just going to be easier. So that goes through there. To there. Get the other spacer in the other side. Line it all up. Again, I'm going to have to go over and torque everything up properly. Okay, the front wheel's back on. I'm now going to do a test out of pure interest and see how long it takes for this wheel to stop moving. Because if you saw in the last video, the bearings in this front wheel, even though they're quite old, are absolutely perfect. Here we go, one good push. Well, there you go. It was a while. Also, you may know I've got new tyres on now, so that's good news. Let's move on to the rear. We need to do the sprocket carrier. As this bike has a cush drive, as in the sprocket isn't directly attached to the rim, it has rubber pieces in between here, which then fit into the hub and create a cush between it accelerating. It's supposed to, you know, give you smoother acceleration and less jerkiness and put less strain on your chain and that sort of stuff. Well, we need to take this off its carrier, which gives us a perfect opportunity to try out the impact gun and see if it's going to undo these nice and easy. Nope. This is not a problem, however, because thanks to the wonderful support I get from my patrons on this channel, I'm able to invest in the channel and buy tools, such as an air gun, that allow me to do these jobs and do more of these things in the future. What a difference this is going to make. And that should just come off. Right, that's filthy, so I'm going to spray it some WD-40, give it a clean up, and then we'll get on and put the sprocket on. Okay, so I've cleaned all that up, cleaned the nuts up. I just used some WD-40, a bit of paraffin to clean up the nuts. Got all the grease out, most of it. And now I've got a new sprocket, thanks to Wiimoto, to stick on there. Right, so just drop that on, like so. And start these nuts going. Well, they still look a bit grubby. I know. No, they're just slightly discoloured. This is the classic do it up in a star pattern progressively to get an even load. Okay, so now the sprocket's on the carrier, we need to get the cushes, the rubbers, and slot this together. Okay, so these are the cush rubbers. They're literally just a lump of rubber that's a shape, and they go that way round. Like that, and if you're lucky, it should all just slot together nicely. On Reno's CBF 125, I used to have nightmares getting it back together. Okay, to my mind, that's too much play. It should be tight. What I was just saying is that they should be tight, and trying to get it to all cram in should be quite annoying, and that just falls in too easily. So, yeah, I'm going to have to research now, and I think that's probably going to delay this. Okay, I was correct. Unfortunately, the cush drive rubbers aren't the right ones for this bike. They are a Yamaha, but they're not for this one. Wiimoto have looked into it. They know why it happened, and they've corrected that, and now they are working out getting me some in the post. This is another example of a delay. But instead of stopping things now to continue on when those parts arrive, I've decided that contingency is important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the brakes. That might be enough to finish out this video. If not, we'll try and tag on another job. I'm not entirely sure. I've kind of got to be a bit quick on this one today because I've got a podcast to do later on this afternoon, assuming that all goes ahead. So I just need to get on. Okay, this should be a nice easy job. Let's hope. Anyway, so I've already cleaned these calipers, taken the old pistons out and the seals. These are all bare and clean and ready to go. So I've just got to put all the new rubbers in, the new seals, and they will be done. So let's get on with that. Might have to use my hands. Okay, so let's do the rear one first. Thanks to Wiimoto, we have this TRK kit, which has... there we go. Has all our bits in it we should need. Again, if you can hear the chirpy chirpy birds, I'm sorry, there's not a lot I can do about it. They won't leave me alone. Right, so we need to get this old rubber out. Does this piece come out first? Come on. Yeah, there we go. This is that, and that is the same as that. Okay, cool. Right, okay, so we're ready to reassemble. Just need a little bit of brake fluid. Right, I don't know if you've seen this done before, and I do have videos doing this in much more detail, but I'm going to show you how to do this one, and then you'll get how brakes are rebuilt. It's not really difficult. So let's do the bottom one first. So you have two seals, one thick, one thin. There's two grooves, one thick, one thin, so you know, you can't really get that wrong. Use a little bit of brake fluid, the right sort for your bike, to lube up the seal. And then there's all sorts of different techniques how you do this, but generally you just get one side in, the groove, like so, and then just plop, and it sits in place. Do the next one. Piston. So again, brake fluid all over this. And just it should, with a little care, just double checking before I use any force. See, will it get past the bottom one? I've never known a caliper to be that tight. Yeah, there's no way that's right. Is this both front? Right, yeah, this is all front stuff. Ah, hold on a minute. I have another bag of seals. This might be the rear kit. Yeah, this is another rear kit. I wonder if I try changing that top seal, or both those seals for these ones, these will work. I mean, all I can do is try. So, that's the other kit. This is this kit. I wonder if I was sent a kit that just happened to have the right piston size in it, but it didn't have the right seal sizes. Remember that when I order stuff from Wiimoto, it's not like I go on there and pick things out. It's very much different. See that? Oh, I bet I have good feelings. Oh, no, actually, every time I ever talk anything up, it always backfires. This is too big. What? $38.12, $38.12. 30. It's not round. I think that's what the problem is. To all intents and purposes, these look identical. But one will go in and one just will not. Okay, so this is the corresponding piece of caliper, and this little rubber just goes in this hole here. There we go. So that's correct. And the pin, I guess this wants a very light amount of grease on it, but not much. Right, so I've got it half in, and I'm thinking it's probably going to be easier to like get it half and half. So I'll cover that in the red rubber grease. Oh, nearly. Okay, so that's through. And then if we push that over there, and push back. No, you've got to sit in this collar. Why are you not sitting in this collar? No, come on. There we go. Lovely, nice and free moving. So, what's left in the kit? Washers. Those are spare ones, I'm just going to keep those. So the back one is just waiting on a piston. I think that one's out of round. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, we should be alright here because these are genuine Yamaha parts. So obviously this is a twin pot caliper, but we have a big one and a small one. So big one, small one. Thick little one, thick big one. Thick thin little one, thin big one. Right. Big little seal, thick little seal. Come on, go in. That. And these two. One. Bottom one. Fluid on the piston. Piston in. Fluid on the piston. Piston in. That is how it's supposed to go. Did they give us... I did get a kit for the front from TRK. Wait a minute. These are clearly misformed. Done. Okay, so I need a different rear piston, but everything else is fine, and I need different rubbers for the front. I've got to wait on several parts now to move on, and there is nothing I can really do along the lines of those things until those parts turn up. However, what I can do is do the spark plugs and drain the coolant, and that's about it. Maybe I'll do some paint stuff. So basically, yeah, this episode is just to show you that the problems of this build are continuing. This has been the most troublesome build of my entire life, even though it's supposed to have been one of the most simplest. because it was just doing general maintenance and no real great work. But it is what it is. These things happen. Thankfully, it's happened now while I'm not riding really anyway. So it's not really that big of an issue. Yeah, I better make this video because unless you're talking to me like on Discord daily, you won't fully know all the problems because it moves quickly. I mean, if you ask any of them, like 1 minute in the morning, I'm like, everything's great. And the next minute, I'm like, oh, no, it's gone. And then it's like, oh, I've done this. And it's like, no, everything's... So we have made some progress. The wheel is on. The suspension is on. I mean, in theory, I suppose we could... no, let's not stop putting plastics onto the bike's fully done. You know, there has been some progress and we know where to... And we have rebuilt the calipers. Just looking for some rubbers and they'll be done. So that's a good move forward. Positivity, keeping cool headed. So yeah, a huge thanks to my patrons who help keep this channel alive and allow me to buy tools and stuff, and understand when, like, you know, when things go wrong, when I can't ride, when stuff gets delayed, that they're like cool with it. I mean, to be fair, I do give a lot of my time on Discord to them, so it's, you know, $1 a month. I think they're pretty happy. But yeah, if it wasn't for you guys, I'd be really screwed. Hang on a minute before you go, because things move fast, as I say. Let me give you a little bit of an update. I called WeMoto this morning and actually spoke to one of their high-up chaps, my contact at the place, and sort of explained the problems that I've had with parts. And he's apologised profusely, and he's getting that all sorted. As I say, every time something is discovered, it gets fixed. He gave me a bit of an explanation as to how it all works and why sometimes these happen. I have been unlucky that I've hit a few things in close succession, but basically the way it works is for third-party parts, the manufacturers don't tell them the sizes because, you know, they're losing money by people saving us money. But the payoff of that is that depending on the different manufacturers of the different parts for third-party, you can get some differences in their specifications. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You know, one set of fork seals might be allowed to be plus or minus a few tenths of a millimetre, and in other ones it really can't take it. The tolerance is too tight. And that's only really found out when people try. Some of the parts that I've had problems with, or actually all of the parts I've had problems with, have been recent code changes, which means that they probably come from one supplier to another supplier. And unfortunately, we're now discovering that in my example with this bike and this year and all that, these particular parts aren't quite getting there. I'm not sure if that piston is out of round or not. I need a proper micrometer to know that. It might just be my verniers, but it definitely doesn't fit. As to why some of these things have changed recently, I'm going to guess that's because they were coming from outside the UK before and now they're getting them from inside the UK because of Brexit. Because to my understanding, WeMoto has had a massive increase in paperwork in getting things in because of us leaving the EU. I'm sure this will be resolved in months, year to come. You know, we need things to move smoothly. I'm sure this will get resolved. But also, obviously, WeMoto are currently a little bit up against it because everyone's fixing their bikes and the demand at the moment apparently is huge. So for the amount of things that go out the door to how many mistakes they get, it's you know, people are generally happy. And I've just been unlucky in this case. But because I am the truthful sort of vlogger that I am, I have shown how it's happened for me and also spoken to the company and asked them and they've explained it very honestly and just said, you know, every time something goes wrong for you, we know about that problem and then that problem gets investigated and fixed. So I may be taking one for the team for some XJ6 owners here. Anyway, there you go. There's a little update. I'm going to be filming the Q&A very soon from me and Reno, so that'll be up on Patreon in a couple of days. I'll be up on YouTube soon, and I'm going to do my best to bring you content to keep you entertained while I can't ride and I can't fix bikes. Please remember to hit that like button. Bye-bye.